Okay. Welcome to the show. My guest today, Sykamore. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Sykamore. That is a stage name that I use for my singer-songwriter project. And I do primarily country music. And I live part of the time in Nashville, Tennessee. And the other half I live here in Calgary, which is where I was born and where most of my extended family and most of my family still live in the area. So it's nice to be able to come back. And I'm still very much a Canadian, I feel. Like I think I know some people who kind of go down to Nashville or go to LA and they kind of shed that. And I feel really lucky to like kind of have a reason to come back here and kind of keep cultivating my roots, because I feel like that is more interesting.
Yeah. Are you like proud of it when you're there?
I am, maybe too much so. That's more just during hockey season.
Yeah. Do you wear a Flames jersey?
Well, Nashville has a hockey team. And if they're not playing the Flames, I'll cheer for the Predators. But if they are, which I've gone to at least twice, I've gone to a Nashville Flames game and I will wear my jersey. I'm the only one in my section, which is pretty funny.
Are they nice to you?
Yeah. I mean, they're not. It's actually the Predators franchise is, they're pretty, like it's a fun game to go to because there's a lot of like crowd chants that you have to learn. And like, it's almost like being at a soccer game. Like there's just a lot of call and response things. And so it's fun to be a Preds fan. And they're also just not as territorial or competitive. So like there was a game in like 2019, I think it was on Halloween, that I got to go to. And it was, Flames were trailing by about 3 goals. And somehow we ended up coming back and winning in the last couple seconds of the third period. And so it was kind of a big upset. And I was just like going crazy and like flashing my jersey. And I kind of half expected somebody to like say something and no one really did. So
yeah.
And hockey's pretty new to them down there. So like if it were like football or especially college football, I think it would be different. Like the rivalries are pretty intense, but I think hockey's just a good time down in the South.
I've had it happen in like Vancouver and Edmonton where it's kind of scary if you wear the opposite jersey. And
I would consider not like in places where the rivalry is pretty heated, just because you don't need that kind of flack in your life. But I felt pretty safe down south because hockey's still pretty new to them. Like, I don't think that the Preds were on anybody's radar until they had a big playoff run. And now it's like,
they do have a lot of chants. They're like known for that, the arena atmosphere. So that's cool. They
do. One that I love is there's the announcer that always says there's 1 minute remaining in the second period. When he says that, everybody goes, "Thanks, Paul." That was just like one of like 10 things you have to learn as a Preds fan.
Are they expensive tickets?
That I don't know, because I feel like every time I've ever gone, it's like
some places
somebody knows somebody and we just kind of go in, and I feel like it's pretty, I wouldn't say that they're any more than
some of the smaller markets. The tickets are like $20 for like tickets and food.
Yeah.
And a drink. So I don't know.
I don't know about that. I feel like the food and drinks are pretty like on par for what you would pay at a hockey arena. So, but maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe I should look into that.
Let's wind it back a bit.
Okay.
We got too into Nashville too quickly. How did you get started with your singing career? And let's go from there.
I started singing pretty young. My family, I grew up going to church, and there's a lot of singing at church. And so that was kind of one of the kind of outlets where I got to be able to be musical and kind of learn to sing harmony and in choirs and stuff like that. And after that, I actually feel like I sang a little bit in elementary school as well. And so I feel like I had a bit of a natural kind of a knack for it. I had decent pitch as a child. And so then I kind of got a few more opportunities because of that. And then I feel like I actually went into hiding for a while. I got into my early teens and I got really self-conscious about it, because I think what happened was the voices on the radio and all the top 40 musicians that were really crushing it at the time, they didn't have a voice like mine. And my singing voice is very kind of precious and quiet, and I sing in my head voice a lot. And the voices at the time that were really popular were like Christina Aguilera and Beyonce and Carrie Underwood, and they're all these like big diva show-stopping voices. And I kind of at the time was looking at it very black and white and sort of being like, if I can't sing like that, I don't know if I can be a pro. And so even though I wanted to, I kind of stopped singing and stopped pursuing it because I just felt like it's just going to set me up for heartache. And that was sort of, so all through kind of high school, I kind of just, I think I wrote some poetry and like maybe wrote some songs like very sadly by myself, thinking no one would ever hear it. And then I went to college, and it just so happened that the friends that I made in college were all kind of musicians in some capacity or another. And they kind of became a bit of a safe space for me to like, hey, I wrote this song. Can I show it to you? And it kind of like, I didn't feel like I would be judged or, that I was on display. And kind of that set the table for me to kind of start a little duo with a friend of mine. And we started writing together and we started playing shows. And it was very quick from then on that I was like, oh, this is actually something I really want to do. And it felt like kind of the floodgates were opened and there was no closing them. And so then from there, my friend and I, we were in a band for a second, and then we went and played in other bands kind of by ourselves. And I think I was in a rock band, you might call it.
I was going to ask what genre
so
your bands were before.
My friend and I, we're in a duo, and you would probably say we were like folk or something comparable to Lord Huron or the Weepies or something like that. And then I got really into like Angels and Airwaves, Tom DeLonge's band, and that sound really captivated me for a while. And so I wanted to do something more in that like space rock direction. And I was writing the music, and it was just me and some guys that I knew who all played instruments. And I was the one booking the shows, writing the music, and they were my awesome hired guns. And then it honestly felt like the longer and the kind of the better I got at songwriting, the more it was coming back to more of a country sound, which is what I grew up hearing. I grew up on a farm. My parents met on the rodeo circuit. And so there was a big part of me that was country that I was kind of almost hiding or a little bit embarrassed of. But it almost felt like the better I got at songwriting, the more I was able to come back to my roots. And there almost felt like there was no escaping it. And so then I started Sykamore as kind of a side project. I thought it might just be like what City and Color is to Dallas Green, you know. But then it kind of quickly took over and became my kind of main focus, which I also think might have happened to Dallas Green for City and Color. And then it just kind of very organically, I just started falling into opportunities that were songwriting contests or artist development contests. And so I kind of feel like eventually I just looked up and I was doing it full time, and it was taking up all of my daylight hours. And then,
did you have like a big break that they say? And did you have kind of smaller breaks before that?
Yeah, I think the smaller breaks are a lot more common than the big ones. But for me, the thing that got me down to Nashville, I think, and the biggest kind of like talking point or what ends up coming up quite a bit is I was in Halifax for the Canadian Country Music Awards, and there was an artist that played on the televised broadcast named Thomas Rhett, and he's kind of a household name in country now, but he was just kind of coming up and really popping off and getting his first singles. And I was really impressed with him, and so I followed his Twitter at the time account. And you know, when you follow one person, Twitter will suggest similar people to follow. And somebody else that they suggested that I follow is a guy named Rhett Akins. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was actually Thomas Rhett's father. And he's a very prolific, very successful songwriter in Nashville. And he had a career as an artist earlier in the 90s. And I didn't know any of that. I kind of recognized his name from him being an artist. And I just thought, whatever, I'll just follow him. And within a day, he'd followed me back, Rhett Akins, and he had sent me a message on Twitter. And he said, hey, I went to your YouTube channel, which I had, like I would post covers and stuff on there. And he said, I like what you're doing. And I'm not sure what you're doing in Canada, but if you'd ever want to come to Nashville, he said, I'd like to help. And so I didn't really know what that meant. And I also thought that I was being catfished. I didn't think it was as simple as that. And so I kind of shared his contact with some people on my team at the time, and they kind of verified that it was him. And we were planning a trip to Nashville anyway. So about a month later, I was sitting in his house and we were like just talking about his ideas and my plans for my career. And eventually that led to him signing me to a publishing deal. And that was what opened the door for me to get my immigration visa and everything to be able to work in the United States. And so I moved there in the fall of 2017. And so that was kind of a big break, you might call it, or just like a really big opportunity, because I'd kind of been going to Nashville. I'd been writing with other people a lot. And I kind of told myself that I wasn't going to move there until I had a deal, if and when, because I couldn't financially justify just moving down there and then not being able to work, right? Because you need the proper work authorization to work down there. And so I didn't know how that was going to go. I didn't know how I was going to get a deal. And then one kind of just fell into my lap.
It does seem like a big break story from a movie, though.
Yeah. I mean, I look back on it and I think that, was it that easy? And I mean, it wasn't easy. There's a lot of small opportunities that you seize that kind of lead you to those points. Like, I don't, maybe there's some people out there who kind of, especially in today's day and age where they can just have a video go viral and their life has changed overnight. But I think more often than not, it's a lot more common to just kind of keep showing up. And, I had a lot of content that Rhett was able to look at and kind of be able to suss out that I was a legit artist who was serious about it for that conversation to take place, So you're right.
So then you went down there. Did you then put an album together?
So publishing deal is a songwriting deal. So you're basically, you are in a contract with however many people are in your, whether it's a joint venture or it's just a straight deal with a publisher. And so it's for people who are artists, like who write songs for themselves, but it's also for people who are what they call staff writers, who write songs for other people. And so you'll get them in a room with, like, Julia Michaels is a great example of somebody she's an artist. She writes music for herself, but she also writes music for Selena Gomez and Bieber and Sabrina Carpenter. And so that typically doesn't involve making an album per se. You're kind of signed on a songs per contract period basis. But what people tend to treat publishing deals as, they treat them as opportunities for an artist to develop and kind of just get into the fold, into the industry, start writing what might turn into an album. But basically what you're looking for once you get a songwriting deal as an artist is kind of the next step traditionally is then you look for your record deal and you look for a label, and then your label and your publisher kind of work together to make your albums. And so I did start writing, and some songs eventually that I did write when I first moved to Nashville made it to my record, but that was 2017. And I didn't actually put out a record. I think I'd put out an EP, but it was already done before I moved to the States, and it just kind of eventually came out. But I didn't record an album of songs that I wrote in Nashville till like 2022. So it was COVID did mess some of that up. I think it was supposed to come out in 2020. But the publishing deal was very much like my foot in the door kind of moment. So
I was going to ask if you're like a solo artist now, or how it works really, because you're actually the first musician I've ever had on the show. Yeah,
I guess the brand itself, Sykamore, is me. But I definitely, wherever I can, I try to play with a band because I record in a full band scenario. And, so I always like to do justice to the music by playing with a full band. But I think anything that's sort of marketed around Sykamore, it's just me. So for better or worse.
So you said you liked Angels and Airwaves. Yeah. Who were some of your other inspirations?
Taylor Swift early on as a country act, and then also as she blossomed into a pop artist. I think being somebody who writes my own music and still likes to write alone, I look up to her a lot because she has a great sort of finesse writing with other people, but also writing alone and kind of flexing those muscles accordingly. Also, just any kind of artist who successfully navigates kind of crossover genres. So like Shania Twain and Dolly Parton, they are so great at, kind of being known for being in the country space, but also kind of pushing the envelope and expanding what the genre can be. And also kind of having a seat at the pop table when they want one. Mm-hmm. Casey Musgraves is another great example. So those are the artists that I definitely look up to and try to emulate in my career.
Who do you get compared to the most?
I do get Taylor a lot. I think maybe because I'm a bit of a student of hers, but also I think we have similar voices. And I get Casey a decent amount too, which I will take all day.
What
long.
about outside of country music? Is there anyone in a completely different genre?
I'm sure there is. I feel like this is the thing about getting compared is I feel a lot like sometimes people project what they want to hear onto you. And so like I had a lady come up to me at a show one time and she said I sounded like Adele and I really don't. Like I'm not gonna claim that at all. But I think it's just sort of what she chose to hear. Like it was kind of
That's a nice compliment.
Oh, I mean, it's the highest compliment. I don't believe that I sound anything like Adele. I'm trying to think. I think I've gotten Joni Mitchell a time or two, which is another great compliment. Who else? Maybe like
I love Joni Mitchell.
I mean, she's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Joy Williams, she was one half of the Civil Wars back in the day.
Who do you think would match your voice the best to do a song with?
I would love to do a song with Lana Del Rey. I
look like her.
I get that from time to time. Yeah. And I do get the vocal comparison too. That's one that I probably should have mentioned. But she's an idol of mine, and I'm excited because apparently she's kind of moving into the country space.
Oh, really?
Allegedly. She's playing Stagecoach this year. And I just saw that they just released the lineup. And it says Lana Del Rey is like headlining one of these stages. And in brackets, it's like with a very special country style set or something, like sort of like almost like them sort of admitting like, we know she's not a traditional country artist, but she's going to like tweak her set. It's like, I would die to see that. And so I'm excited that she seems to be interested in collaborating in the country space. And so it could happen. Who knows?
I've seen her in a couple different spaces too, like with some rappers and yeah.
She has a very interesting history of who she collabs with. Like, I think she's kind of picky about it. She has a lovely duet with Stevie Nicks, actually, from one of, I think it's from her record in like 2017, 2018. And so she'll do, Stevie Nicks, but then she collabs with The Weeknd all the time. And yeah, it's interesting.
So what, if you didn't get back into singing, what would you have done, do you think?
Well, I moved to Calgary. It's so funny to say this in hindsight, but I moved to Calgary to be an actor. And it's funny because even though a lot of things are shot here, it's not really where actors go to kind of
it's
sow
picking
their
up a lot. I've actually been talking to a lot of actors recently, and there's a boom. So
I'm glad because I know a lot of people here who are really interested in theater, and most of them, before I moved away, they were having to go to probably Vancouver or Toronto or even to LA, New York, to try to pick up their careers. And so to me, moving from the small town that I went to school in, I felt like moving to a city of 1 million people was like, there's got to be some kind of work for an actor in a big city. And I ended up just going to college and kind of taking a hard left and becoming a musician. But I'm really interested in acting. And just recently I was talking with somebody, they work in film, and they were like, would you ever want to be an actor or do something in that space? And I was like, yes, but I also feel like I kind of missed my window to like pay my dues because I was paying my dues doing something else. And so who knows? But like the arts is just so fascinating to me. And I also do voice acting, which And I feel like if I didn't do music, I might have gone, like I do voice acting on the side, but I think I probably would have done it a little more just head on.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the voice acting.
Yeah.
But acting and being a musician,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like both of those things you need a lot of confidence for. And
Yeah. Maybe.
have you always had that, or is it something you like just built up over time?
I think, and I'm probably not the only person that would say this, is like, as somebody who does things on a stage, it's not necessarily having confidence. It's being able to like almost embody someone else. Like, so it's almost like you don't feel like you are yourself on stage. You're someone else, and that person has more confidence. Cause like, I'm actually like probably a lot more shy in real life than I am on stage, because you kind of step into a persona almost. And I think the base level of confidence that comes with it is just kind of the preparedness, and also just kind of being a little bit obsessed with making your performance perfect and kind of just knowing it inside and out. I feel like those things, I don't know if they make you confident, but they make you comfortable on stage. And then you can kind of just...
Are you still really nervous when you go on stage?
I don't know if I get really nervous. In the last couple of years, my symptoms of nerves have changed. When I was younger, this never happened. And now I actually get dry mouth pretty bad before I go on stage. I don't know why that happens. But I mostly just, especially when it gets to about the 5-minute mark before I have to hit stage, I find myself just wanting to start. I don't really want to, it's not like I'm trying to put a hole in the wall going the other way. I kind of just like want to get, because there's that, I don't like the anticipation. I think that's the thing that bugs me. And then you find that once you just get on stage, you might be a little bit shaky at first, but then you kind of remember, oh, this is something I've done before. And so it's not like totally unknown territory.
Yeah.
But
I would freak out. I don't even like doing this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting that you do it.
I did one thing on stage and I was so nervous.
Do you like, can you recall it? I feel like some people, especially the first couple of times they do something on stage, they come off stage and they're like, I blacked out. I don't know what I said. Like,
that's how I feel when I do these. Well, actually, I did a prayer I think I was in grade 3 or something. Aww. I did a prayer and I fainted because I had to speak into the microphone. And then ever since then,
well, that
not really for me.
I mean, that checks out though. I feel like you had a pretty intense like vagus nerve response. And now your body's like trying to tell you to just warn you to not do that again. But
I'm working on it.
Well, I think this is a great kind of in-between step, because it's not in front of an audience per se, but it's also a performance. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I do get nervous. I wish I could just be a little less nervous, because I think like a tiny bit of nerves is good, because it kind of keeps you sharp and it kind of makes you a little bit, like the adrenaline can kind of help to an extent. But I feel like I get nervous about 15% too much, to the point where I'm a little bit annoyed by it. I mean, I could do without like some of these things, you know. But, yeah.
What about in voice acting? That's my segue into that. Do you get nervous doing that?
I get nervous there's a couple different ways you can go about doing an acting job once you've booked it. And the one that I will get nervous in is they call it a live directed session. So you've got the client or the creative director or whoever it is that's hired you, either like in your ear or they're on Zoom. Like, so you're in real time performing and they're giving you notes in between takes. So in that respect, it's very much like acting. That makes me nervous because I can't kind of shut off in between takes and kind of like edit and feel like I'm doing a good job comping together a take. Like I can't really break. So I'm just like always on. And so I feel my worst fear, it hasn't happened yet, but my fear is that I'll get stuck in the middle of a live session. Like I can't pronounce a word right, or I keep messing up the line, because usually these things are only allotted for like an hour or so. And so if you can't get what they're asking for, depending on the size of the job, but if you can't give them what they're asking for in the take, sometimes you wonder if you're going to keep the job, if you're going to get fired. And so they've all been relatively good. Oh, and I also worry about just the tech side of it. what if the call gets dropped or, something happens to the audio? Like it's all happening live, right? You can't exactly fix it in post. So it just feels like the stakes are higher. And so that's what makes me, because I want to do a good job. I want to be professional and I don't want them to come out of it being like, wow, she was really not prepared. So I always try to just be on my very best behavior and bring my A game. And it's just a higher stakes situation.
How often are they live?
I'd say 1 out of every 5 jobs that I end up doing. Like usually it says when I read they call it the brief, like the instructions for the job. When you audition, it'll say whether or not they want a live directed session. And so that's kind of nice because then you can sort of decide if it's something you want to do or if I'm in a position to do it or not.
Did this come up through going to Nashville or is it something you found here?
Here, actually. So I worked with a great guy named George Weiberg, and he lives in BC now, but he used to live around here. And we worked together on one of the first times I ever tried to make a record. I think it was with the rock band. And he was the mixing engineer on the project. And we ended up meeting and just stayed in touch because we really vibed. And he started producing after that. And he kind of produced my first couple projects. And so we were kind of just in cahoots and we were friends. And he was the one who started voice acting just because he needed the money. He was starting out as a producer. And
if you have the equipment.
He had all the equipment. He had gone to audio engineer school. He knew what he was doing. And he's also quite he has a real flair for voices and acting. And so it all came very naturally to him. And so he just started auditioning and kind of started booking right off the bat. Like he really didn't struggle to book jobs and it's decent money most of the time. So it was him who was like, you should try this. And he's like, you can come over here and I can coach you. Like we can do auditions because I didn't know anything about recording at that time. And I ended up basically apprenticing under him. And he taught me about how to record voiceover and how to process it for that medium. And then he kind of pushed me out of the nest and I started doing it myself and I had my own gear. And so it's really him that I have to thank. And I can't even say that I do it full time. I do it kind of just when I have the time. I just audition as much as I can and it's interesting.
How do you use your voice differently? Was it singing and voice acting?
Yeah, I think when I sing, it's very much, I know what Sykamore is supposed to sound like because it's a voice that I have sort of it's a sound that I've spent time on. But when it's voice acting, it's sort of, I'm at the mercy or at the behest of somebody else. So I'm a character. And so sometimes my voice will be a little bit brighter with a little more of a smile, or sometimes it'll be a little more subdued. And so it changes based on what they need per job.
That sounds so fun.
It is, honestly. Yeah. And it's kind of like what you were saying before about just doing a slight deviation from your day-to-day job to kind of keep you sane and keep it somewhat creative so you don't get sick of it. I think that's, and I learn a lot too about vocal processing and things that I can maybe actually apply to my life as a musician. I learned that through voice acting. And so it's just one more fun kind of creative thing that I get to do.
Yeah. Has anyone ever said that you have a Canadian accent?
No, I don't get the accent so much as I get my choice of words, I feel gets made fun of from time to time. So around here we say, where's the washroom? And they don't say that down south. I don't think they say it anywhere in the States, but especially not in the South. They'll say the restroom or the bathroom. So if I say washroom, sometimes I get
I have that on one of my
quizzical
game cards, actually. Not that, but if you say pop or soda or what.
That's one that's kind of a can of worms, honestly, because I've learned that there's a big chunk of the States that just doesn't matter what kind of soda you're talking about, they'll say Coke. It's an umbrella term for a Coke is just any carbonated beverage.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. And I think down south you hear more soda. And then in more like the Midwest, you'll hear pop or cold pop. And they say it with more of an open not awe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's that one's nation is quite divided on that one. I feel, depending on where you go. And I said pop growing up here. You probably did too.
I say pop, I think.
And I feel like now I'm more inclined to say soda or cola. I feel like I will say cola from time to time.
That's not even on the list.
I don't know where that came from. Nice cold cola.
Earlier we talked about writing for other people, which we kind of skipped. Have you done a lot of that?
I've done a handful of it. I feel like I'd like to do it more, but I also just feel when you're an artist, especially in the market today, there's a lot of pressure to just keep creating and keep releasing stuff just to almost stay on everybody's radar. And so I don't find myself with a ton of downtime. Like when I'm writing, I just think it's good business and good sense to just keep writing for myself, just so I have stuff in the vault. But from time to time, I'll try to write something and I'll kind of get halfway through it and I'll think, I don't know that I believe this coming out of my own mouth, but I might be able to show it to somebody else. And so that's usually, it comes about pretty organically. But I will from time to time get in the room, especially if there's a Canadian who wants to come to Nashville and they want to write with people. I can get my foot in the door that way and just host them, and then we can write a song and they might take it to radio themselves. But it's another thing, kind of like what we were just talking about. It's like adjacent to what you do day in and day out. So it just makes it a little more fun because it's like muscles you don't necessarily get to flex all the time.
Let's take a quick break and then play the game.
Okay.
Hey, y'all. It'd really help me out if you could subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen or watch. Maybe check us out on Instagram. Share with your friends and give us a review. If you can do any of that, that would really help support the show. And tune in a little bit later in the show. We are going to give you a clip of Sykamore's new song that she just released. So stay tuned. Thanks.
Okay.
And we're back. We're going to play a little game. The game is, I'm going to give you sayings. Some of them are just words, sayings and words.
Okay.
From either slang. Yeah. From either, it says Alberta or Nashville, but I think it's more like Calgary, Nashville.
Okay. Deal.
And you're going to tell me where it's from. If you use it, what it means, maybe.
Okay.
You might not know all of them.
I like a challenge. I'd like to think I can know them all, but who knows?
I have 4 cue cards full of them.
Okay.
Maybe we'll cut some. We'll see.
Okay.
The first one is that dog won't hunt.
That is a Southern term from Nashville. And I guess it would mean, I can't say I use it because I feel like you have to be pretty Southern to pull that off. I think it means like that's not going to work, or like that's not going to fly.
You know what? I didn't write down what they mean.
Oh, no.
But I do remember that was correct. You get a point.
Good.
You're winning.
Perfect.
Okay. This one is fun. I like this one. Yeah. He's got more nerve than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
That one I've not heard. It sounds very Southern, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's something from the South.
Yeah.
Can I hear it one more time?
He's got more nerve than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Well, it seems self-explanatory. Like somebody with a lot of nerve.
I like it. I'm going to use it.
You gonna start using that?
That's that whole cue card. Actually, at the bottom it says, "Do you say A?" Which we touched on, but we weren't filming yet.
I say if I do anything of that nature, it's more of the hey, the Alberta hey. So like, it's cold out there, hey. Like the A, I don't know. I can't decide if I think it might be a little more on the east, like the kind of Ontario east.
I feel like
side of things.
I say hey, yeah. But I also maybe was saying A ironically, and then it kind of stuck a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the Letterkenny boys, I feel like they say A.
Yeah.
So
is that Canadian? I thought that was like
it's Canadian.
Minnesota, maybe.
No, very Canadian. I think it takes place in Ontario.
Somewhere. I have seen it. I don't know how I don't know.
Yeah.
Next card. This is just an expression, I guess. It's not really anyway. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes.
That's a Calgary term, I believe. Also, I've heard it used in Nashville, but I think it's more applicable here because of our Chinook winds and it can be very cold. It's actually about to happen. I mean, it's -20 today, and I think next week it's going to be above 0. So it's not exactly 5 minutes, but
I get migraines when that happens.
Yeah, I've started to get those too.
You get another point. No, you're winning.
Yeah. I mean, don't know who I'm playing against.
Well, you got them all right.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Yourself, and you're winning. It's all picking and grinning.
It sounds Southern. I feel like maybe I've heard it before. Does it mean?
I don't remember that one, and I've never heard that.
It's all picking and grinning. I have no idea, but I would guess that it means like we're all smiles. It's all good, like it's all picking and grinning over here. But
by the way,
it'd be really funny if that's wrong.
Shout out to the people of Nashville, because I went into the Reddit and said, I'm doing this podcast and I need some expressions. And there was like 200 comments really quickly.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I use Reddit so much, but like I never contribute. But like the thing that I love is you go to Reddit and it reminds you that you've never had an original thought in your life. Like I can type pretty much anything in and someone else has already asked the question and 400 people have answered. And it's just like restores your faith in the
I love
common
Reddit.
hood.
I just add Reddit to anything I Google to see what people are actually
I've started
saying.
doing that too, actually, because you get like I travel a lot. And so I've started looking at Reddit for hotel recommendations because reviews on Google Maps is so manipulated and so useless that I want a real person to be like, tell me the experience you had at such and such hotel in Kansas City because I'm about to go there.
Giver.
That's Alberta for sure.
Do you ever use that?
I think I used to. I played hockey as a kid.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, actually, you know what? I play hockey still in Nashville, but I feel like Giver was a lot more like how to rile up your friends when you're playing hockey.
So you play hockey? Mm-hmm. Like in a league or just?
Yeah, there is a girls' league in Nashville. It's kind of just started at the rink that I'm at. The Predators have this association, I guess, where they have put up 3 different rinks around Nashville called the Ford Ice Centers. And so there's one in Clarksville, which is kind of outside Nashville. And then I think there's 2 in Nashville. And they've really started investing in women's hockey. And so and I think there's a couple other sportsplexes that have had long-standing girls leagues, but I started playing in the summer at this one ice center in Nashville. And it's the coolest crowd because you have women who are kind of like me, who played in like high school or better than me, who played in college. And then you have women who have learned to skate in the last 2 years. And so it's just kind of an interesting community because it's we're all playing games together and we're all trying to teach each other and support each other. And so it's just a really interesting crowd.
That's really cool. You're actually a real hockey fan.
I am.
Instead of just saying that.
I mean,
earlier.
you don't have to play hockey to be a real fan.
But you play.
I've lived it.
That's pretty Canadian of you too.
I'd like to think so.
The next one is you can't ride 2 horses with 1 butt.
That's Southern. And I think that...
Have you ever said that?
No, but I feel like it's famously used in Sweet Home Alabama. But I think it just means you have to commit to one thing 100% instead of giving 50% to 2 things and having neither of them.
That's a point.
Bear fruit. So, which is a good philosophy, I feel.
Okay, this card has 3, and then there's a speed round. Okay?
Oh no, the lightning round.
Yeah. I've been using this one all day.
Okay.
She's slicker than a greased up pig at a county fair.
I would say that's a Southern saying. Yeah,
it's slippery out there.
Yeah, I don't know that I've heard she's slicker.
Yeah, well,
but I've heard, just anything like that.
That's so you haven't used that one?
I haven't, but you could use it up here when it's icy for sure.
Yeah, that's how I've been using it since I found it.
greased up hog. I like it.
That guy's all hat and no cattle.
I think that's a Southern phrase.
It's actually Alberta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've definitely heard like...
It's probably... There's a lot of them that it could probably be both.
Yeah. Duolingo.
Yeah.
Miranda Lambert has a song. I forget what song it is, but it's a lyric. Something about all hat and no cattle. I think it means to be all... kind of all talk. Like all bravado, but not really... not really like any substance underneath.
The guys that go to the country nightclubs here in Calgary.
Or Stampede.
Right. The whole Stampede. Yeah. Everyone in Stampede.
But that's just culture, I feel. That's just what everybody does around here. The cowboy cosplay during Stampede.
Let's talk about that. Not right now. After the game, I want to talk about Stampede.
Sure.
Your relationship with Stampede.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Lightning round.
All right.
Actually, before the lightning round, do you say yeehaw or yahoo? Is it different in different places? I wouldn't.
Let's
say you're riding a horse. You want it to giddy up?
I guess I would say yeehaw. I don't know that I would ever unironically say those things. But I mean, I feel like I say yahoo a lot when I'm like texting friends about the Flames winning. I feel like there's a yahoo like lore that is often paired with the Flames franchise. I don't know if it's like there's the yeah baby that everybody talks about, during every playoff run because of that beloved commentator whose name escapes me at this moment. But, when I think it was a big playoff game and big game winning goal, and he was like, yeah, baby. Yeah. But I feel like there's yahoos that happen during the Flames games as well, like when they score. So
you said you don't use it, but you actually do use that one.
I do. Yeah. I mean, that was more specific to riding a horse. I don't think I've ever been on a horseback and said yeehaw.
Okay. Speed round.
All right.
Hot chicken.
Like just...
That's just the...
hot chicken's famously from Nashville.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it different than hot chicken anywhere else?
Yeah. I think there's like a special marinade of like herbs and spices that they use to
that
kind
one
of...
On Reddit had like 100 people liked that one.
Oh,
Bring that one up, they said. Hot chicken.
Well, yeah. I mean, hot chicken's the best. I'm a big fan of spicy food, and so it was one of the first things I did when I moved to Nashville. Went to Hattie B's hot chicken, and within the city, you'll have it's quite a
competitive hot chicken market.
Well, I just feel like people have their allegiances, So I like Hattie B's. Somebody else might say Hattie B's is crap and you should go to Prince's. So there's a couple different kind of franchises that people align themselves with. I think you just got to find one. I wonder if we
have that here with anything.
I mean,
is there
like poutine comes to mind, but that's a little more like Quebec and Montreal.
Yeah.
But as far as here, I don't know.
Do you show people poutine? Like, do you try to make it when you're at friends' houses?
But I will, if I have a good one, I tend to post about it. Because I want to educate my American friends. I played Lasso Festival in Montreal a couple years ago, and they, I think, had poutine like for the artists backstage and stuff. And I brought my American band, and so I think it was a big day for them.
That's funny. They just in the dressing room, just a big.
Well, there's like we all get little trailers out back and those are your dressing rooms. And then there's usually like a common area that's like a cafeteria that they set up and then you can
poutine bar.
Yeah, something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I was going to add one more thing to that, but I know. It was isn't it the Caesar, the drink was made here?
Yeah.
So
I guess who does have the best Caesar?
That and see I don't know because I don't really drink Caesars.
I used to drink them.
I'm not a savory drink person.
Yeah, it's a meal. Actually,
it's like a sandwich in a glass.
It's like tomato soup, kind of.
Though, I had a friend, I don't know if it's still open, Cleaver on 17th Ave.
I don't know if it's open either.
But
I know
they had a tricked out Caesar that had like...
Oh, like with a burger.
It had like chicken and waffles. And, like it literally was, it was probably a great like bang for your buck because you got like, it was like a brunch. You got like chicken, waffles, and then like your kind of traditional like bean skewers and stuff like that.
I've seen some crazy one, like a full rotisserie chicken on a skewer.
Love it.
Yeah.
The Costco Caesar with a rotisserie chicken.
Okay, speed round. We actually slowed down in the speed round.
We really did.
But these ones are all obvious. So Cowtown.
Calgary.
Do you say that?
No, I actually don't love that phrase.
Yeah, I don't know if I've said it.
I think we're slowing down again, but
we have time.
If I'm using any kind of slang, I'll say calgs. And even that, I feel like only in certain company, or YYC.
People say YYC a lot.
Yeah.
Apparently that came up with the floods that happened here. That kind of started.
Yeah, because of the hashtag, I'm sure. That kind of, because I remember when that happened and a lot of people from the States and all over the world were like tweeting their support and like, saying just saw the YYC floods. And so I became familiar with it when I started flying all the time because that's the airport code.
Yeah. Imagine if it was just called Cowtown Airport. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't exactly say what I don't like about it. It's just, that's weird to me.
Maybe people in Nashville don't know that it's even called that. So.
Probably not. I feel like it's pretty regional. People.
This one was the most popular on Reddit. Meat and 3. That's
a southern, I guess it's sort of not really a restaurant style, or it's just kind of like an entree option. So it's like you can go to a barbecue joint and you get
meat and 3 sides.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that means because they're big on sides down south. They do that really well with and I think it's born out of the barbecue kind of movement. But it's like before I moved to the States, I didn't really think of mac and cheese as a side dish, and I think it's kind of picked up now more up here. But it was kind of mind blowing for me to you can just get mac and cheese with anything. Like
I'm so hungry now. That sounds good.
And going back to hot chicken, mac and cheese is a great side to hot chicken because it's sort of your kind of your fat alongside your acid of like the hot chicken. So
yeah, everything here kind of just is with fries, right?
Yeah, or Caesar salad,
Caesar salad.
But in the States they have all kinds of sides. They have different kinds of gravies. Like they know what they're up to. And they Thanksgiving sides are crazy as well. Like they have mashed potato or what's it called? Sweet potato pie, like with marshmallows and like candied marshmallows and pecans, and so it's very sweet.
Thanksgiving's huge there, right?
Yeah, bigger than here, definitely.
Yeah. Is it like, what's it comparable to? Like Christmas here?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like it's pretty common up here to have turkey at Christmas. But in the States, I feel like they've maxed out their turkey at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And so they'll usually have ham or roast beef, or I think you can sometimes still have turkey. They have turkey on Christmas vacation. But yeah, it's almost like here I find Thanksgiving is more like you just kind of do it with your parents and your immediate family. And then in the States, it's like your uncles and aunts come over and your cousins come over. Like it's a big deal. And it's not as big a deal here.
Speed round. Skiff.
I've definitely heard that. It's escaping me right now where it comes from.
You're losing a point for that one. Now you only have like 9 points or whatever. It's like a light snowfall.
Okay, yeah. Skiff. That checks out.
Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
Bless your heart.
That's southern, and that's sort of a backhanded, not compliment, but more. If you have like a southern lady that says "bless your heart," she's kind of low key calling you stupid. Has
that made its way into your vocabulary?
No, I'm too Canadian to be that overtly. Even though it seems covert, everybody knows what it means. So,
is there any that you have picked up?
I'll say y'all from time to time.
I'll say y'all too.
And yeah, I feel like it's very much depending on whose company I'm in. Because I've actually said it a time or two up here and had somebody, like, I've learned that if your ear's not really prepared to hear a certain word, you're not going to register it as a word. And so one time I was talking to someone and I said, oh, do y'all have such and such? I was asking a question. And the woman was like, sorry, what? and then I changed it to, oh, do you guys have? And then she totally picked it up. But I just think that she wasn't ready to hear because she probably doesn't hear it very much. And so I remember that day sort of being like, I think I need to be a little more cognizant of whose company I'm in when I say that.
I like it.
Yeah. And I I remember the first time I said it, it just kind of happened. I think I was ordering food like over the phone, and I said like, "Do y'all have ranch?" And I kind of like took myself aback. I was like, "Did I really just say that?" And you have like a crisis of identity where you're like, "Can I say that? Am I like, do I believe that coming out of my Canadian mouth?" And so I've since gotten.
How long have you been in Nashville?
7 years.
7 years. I think you can at least at 10 years for sure.
Yeah. And I actually, when I think about, and I spend like half my time here, so I feel like my accent never really settles. But I know some Canadians who are from like the East Coast of Canada, but they've lived in Nashville for 30 some years, and they sound as Southern as anybody. And it's hard not to, because I feel like just naturally you end up speaking the way that's spoken to you all the time. It's just sort of, I think it's kind of a biological thing that happens to us. And so I do feel, and my sister has told me that she's like, I can hear your Southern accent from time to time. But I feel like that's more when I've been down south and all I'm hearing is that. And then when I come up here, it kind of rinses itself out and I kind of get back to baseline. But
the game's still going.
Oh, man. We should have a timer.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Chinook, we talked about it earlier, but
that's an Alberta term.
Do people in Nashville know what that is? Probably not.
They don't.
How could you even explain that? That makes no sense to someone who's not from here.
Yeah, I have had to explain it to some people, and I kind of just say it's a warm wind that comes over. Doesn't it have something to do with the mountains and the air pressure, the change in air pressure, and it just causes all the snow to melt?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it's crazy how many degrees it can change in one day.
Yeah, it's been pretty gnarly.
Just like shorts later in the day after.
Yeah, I feel like spring is the biggest time for that, because it's here. It's like it takes a while from spring to really transfer into summer weather, and so it's like we have some like rain and stuff that could turn into snow, but then we could also have one day of like 25-degree weather, possibly contributed to by Chinook, and so you never know.
I think this says cattywampus.
Cattywampus, yes.
No, that's a word?
Yeah.
I thought I can't be reading this right.
No, it means like, it's from the South, and it means like all messed up, or like, you know, like, let's say your headphones are all tangled and you're like, oh my, they've gone all cattywampus. Like,
I love that. Funny. I hope I can use that somehow.
I didn't know it was a Southern term actually, but.
I didn't know it was a term at all. The last one was Nash Vegas.
It's a Nashville term.
Do you say that ever? And why why does that exist?
I don't know that I've ever said it, but I think it's sort of in reference to the amount of bachelorette parties that come to Nashville. I've heard that we have overtaken Vegas as like the capital of bachelorette parties. So,
does that affect your life?
Not really. I feel like the places that the bachelorette parties tend to go is sort of the main strip of like bars, which is called Broadway. And I don't live anywhere near Broadway, nor do I go down there to go out. So I don't run into them a lot in the wild. I will see them from time to time on something called a pedal tavern, which is...
I was about to say,
do you know what those are?
If you get stuck in traffic. Well, we call them pedal pubs here.
Okay, so yeah,
Whoa,
you know.
So different.
Yeah, but it's the same premise. It's like everybody's on little bicycle pedals, and that's how you fuel this one vehicle. I do get stuck behind them from time to time, and I don't have a ton of patience for them.
I know a lot of people that have gone down there for their bachelorettes now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a fun place to visit because it's good weather, it's good food, and there's a lot of stuff to do during the day. Like you can go to the Hall of Fame, or you can like maybe catch a concert of somebody that you really want to see, and it's also fairly central. Like if you're there for a couple of days, what I've done with my mom and a few other people is after you've seen everything in Nashville once and you want to kind of see something new, you can get to another state within a couple hours. So like Kentucky is right north of us. You can get there in about 2 hours, or you can get to the border in about an hour. But Louisville, which is about 2 hours north, you can go to the Louisville Slugger Museum. That's where Churchill Downs is, where they have the Kentucky Derby, and they do tours of the paddocks and everything. There's a underground limestone mine that you can zip line through.
Oh, cool.
And so there's a lot of cool things to do. And then you can go south of Nashville. You can go to Alabama. Georgia is right there. Chattanooga, Tennessee's a little bit east. So there's, even if you've maxed out everything within the city, which would be hard to do, you can go somewhere else pretty quickly. So it's a tourism ad.
I want to go. I've never been.
You should. Everyone should go once, I feel.
Okay. I promise I'll go.
Skip the Pedal Tavern.
I've never been on one here either.
Go to East Nashville if you want like a cool vibe and a good cocktail. I don't know if Broadway's fun to see. There's a lot of live music and like it's just kind of a classic rowdy strip in the city. But if you want like something a little more subdued but still cool.
How big is it compared to Calgary? Nashville?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit smaller. I think it's like right around 1 million people. And then Calgary has what, like 1.4 or something?
Maybe like 1.7 or 8
It's
now.
like pretty comparable size-wise.
Except during Stampede.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your relationship with Stampede?
I used to love going. I haven't gone in a long time. Partly because of, I think, COVID, where I was maybe, I think they've had Stampede every year. They didn't ever cancel it, right?
They still had it. It was just
like a smaller version.
Weird vibes.
I feel like during those kind of pandemic years, I was either in the States and kind of like maybe working, because that's the one thing is that like Stampede happens in the heart of festival season. And so usually if I'm booked for another festival, can't really get away to come up here. But in the past, I've gone to the Midway a lot. And my parents actually, I think, have both competed at the rodeo in the past. And so we know quite a bit of the families of the people who are still competing. And so we try to get tickets to the rodeo as often as we can. And I always like to say every year they have the queen competition, Stampede Queens and Princesses. My grandma was the Stampede Queen in 1955.
That's cool.
And actually, I want to shout out my cousin, Cody Wilson, who was just crowned Miss Rodeo Canada back in October. So it's like in the same kind of pageantry division. And so it's cool to see the tradition kind of getting passed down. So yeah, we have a lot of rich history with rodeo on both sides of my family.
What about performing during Stampede?
I've played the Coke stage, which was a blast. And it was kind of on my bucket list because I've seen a lot of my favorite artists on that stage over the years. And so it was really fun. I think that was in 2018 I got to play. It was good. I've never played Nashville North, which is another one. But yeah, it's a fun, like I feel like a lot of people in the States know about the Stampede actually. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I think you should play Nashville North. Put it on the list.
I would love to.
What are your shows coming up here?
I have a show on February 28th at the King Eddie, which is right kind of adjacent to the National Music Center or part of the National Music Center. I'm never totally sure. And yeah, that's the 28th. You can get your tickets on the King Eddie website. I think it's on my socials, Instagram, Facebook. You can get tickets there.
I'll link it.
Yeah.
Right here.
You can get somewhere and you can get tickets at the door as well if you don't get them in advance.
Okay. And then isn't there another one at the Music Center?
Yeah, that's in end of April. I'm kind of a special guest at this writers round that's happening. It's an event called Honky Tonks and Heartstrings, which my friend Dan Davidson puts on, and he has a lot of different events of the same name kind of in different places. So like there's been some in, I think like Spruce Grove maybe, or up near Edmonton because that's where he lives. But then he has a couple that are around here. And we're doing one April 26th at Studio Bell. So it'll be good.
What about anywhere else?
I'm working on a couple in the States a little more. So as far as like regional shows, those ones kind of max it out. But I did put out a new song on February 7th called Country Kid. And so I'm working on some live appearances just to promote that.
Can I put a clip?
Yeah, sure. I think just the lyric video is out. So you can put that up.
I'll put it right here.
Sure.
Pause for clip.
Pause for clip.
Yeah, I don't wanna grow up if I have to let go of blue sky, morning dew, fall time, harvest moon. 'Cause I could bet my whole life there ain't nothing your kid.
Are we back from break? Should I come back now?
Sure.
We're back.
We're back from break.
Yeah. So if you had advice for someone just starting out, what would you tell them?
I always answer this question by saying, first of all, it's very tempting when you're first starting to want to like emulate what someone else is doing. And it's okay to be inspired by someone else, but I think it's a mistake to try to become a pale imitation of somebody else, because the biggest reason being that's not you. That's, you trying to wear someone else's costume. And I think it's worth your while to understand what it is about you that makes you different, or what makes you you. And don't shy away from that, because that is often what people end up gravitating towards, is the thing that makes you different and the thing that they can't get anywhere else. Because if you build your whole career on trying to sound like your favorite artist, they're just going to go listen to your favorite artist. Like you're not bringing anything new or, dare I say, authentic to the table. And so I think it's fine to be inspired, like I said, and to have people be able to hear your influences in your music, but you want them to come away from it being like, I can't get that anywhere else. And I think that's partly just having integrity as an artist, but I think it's also good business, because it's like, what makes your product different from other people's? Like, you don't want to just, if you're making vacuums for a living, you don't want to just do what Dyson is doing because they can just go buy a Dyson. I also think it's just more fulfilling as an artist that's a worthwhile journey, is to figure out what makes you different and lean into it instead of being shy and trying to hide it somehow, which I feel like I've done. Like I've been tempted to sort of not include certain things about my influences or about my past or my history. And I feel like the more I integrate who I am into my music, the more people appreciate it. So that's what I like to say.
It probably takes people a long time to get to that step, because everyone starts off singing the artist they like songs, and then like, I can do it just like them. So
yeah. And I think I even said it earlier, the thing that almost made me not pursue music at all was the fact that I thought, I have to sound like other people, and I can't do that. And I didn't think there was a lane open for a voice like mine. And I can look back now and know that like you just build the lane yourself, like you don't have to wait for permission or for somebody else to do something before you can do it. Like if you like it, at the end of the day, that really is the thing that matters the most, is if you are proud of it and you can put your name on it. And chances are people can sense that authenticity from you and they will appreciate it.
Do you ever do those Christina Aguilera runs in the car, like for fun?
I think I've like tried from time to time just as a fun vocal exercise. But
what about if someone wanted to do voice acting? How would they go about that?
There's so much in terms of resources that are free on YouTube. Like there's a lot of great people they start out as voice actors, but then they end up coaching and they give a lot of free advice. So there's a lot of resources available online. The thing that I would say is like, don't think you have to buy top of the line equipment to get started. The biggest difference that's going to be made in your sound is if you are in a sound treated space. So, and again, that's not going to cost, it might cost a little bit of money, but it's going to pay dividends on the back end because you're going to sound professional. But like, there's a lot of things where you can outfit a closet or something with some acoustic paneling that you can buy on Amazon, and you can get a condenser mic that's $200, and like Logic, which is a couple $100. Like you could probably get started in voice acting for like under $1,000 and just get your feet underneath you. And then, like I said before, like a lot of these gigs pay good money and you'll probably get that investment back pretty quickly if you're passionate about it and you're practicing. So yeah, I would say don't fool yourself into thinking you have to get like a Neumann 87, which is like $5,000 mic off the bat. Like just stay within your budget, and it actually is smarter to start that way and just try to get good. Like try to focus on your quality of your work instead of the quality of your equipment because you don't need something fancy.
My room's actually bad for sound. This thing right here, just sound bouncing off everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny what you don't really clock until you're starting to like treat a room for sound, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a lot of reflection and a lot of reverb in here.
That set is better, actually. Those curtains help a lot. Yeah,
and like a lot of people do start their first vocal booth in their closet because of all the clothes. Like it'll absorb a lot of the bouncy reflections. And kind of like a joke that among voice actors is like how many forts you've built in your life, like just trying to build like an impromptu kind of vocal booth with like if you're in a hotel or something, like you're propping up cushions and pillows and everything. Like I have so many pictures of like makeshift booths that I've tried to make. Actually, not even that long ago, I was visiting my sister and all of a sudden I got a client asked me for they did a script revision. So they needed me to reread the script with the updated version. And I thought that job was done and in the can. And so I was not expecting to have to work. So I had to go to a music store, like buy a bunch of gear and return it the next day. And I built like a pillow fort to be able to like read this script. And like, I just remember the mic stand didn't end up working. So I had to like hold the mic with my hand. Like, this is so unprofessional.
In your little fort? That's hilarious.
And like I'm like on my knees, my feet are falling asleep. And like, I just kept thinking about the client being like, if they only knew what I was doing for this job right now. And I got feedback and they were like, sounds great. Thanks so much. Like, you have no idea what just happened.
Do you ever put the voice acting stuff on your Instagram?
Occasionally, if it's like
building a fort in a hotel. That sounds fun.
Like I'll put the finished product on. I did an ad for Pixie Set, the like photography. I think it's a Canadian company for like photographers. And I think it's like presets and maybe it's software for editing and stuff like that. And the advertisement ended up being really cool. And I don't know, I can't remember if I did post it or if I'm planning to post it. But if it's like a cool commercial, I'll definitely post about it. Sometimes it's a little more of a bland kind of thing that I don't think a lot of people would get much out of, but like...
Well, it's interesting, and the pillow fort thing is fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole other world, and that's, something else that I could say to people starting out with voice acting is like, you'll find very quickly there is a whole community of people online willing to like share their tips and tricks, and there's a lot of online groups like Facebook groups where they're putting their gear up for sale to try to sell to another voice actor. So everyone's very supportive in the community.
That's what I found with podcasting too. Yeah. It's crazy. Everyone's so helpful and nice. Instead of like trying to take the spotlight, I guess.
No, I don't find it to be a very cutthroat industry because I think same with podcasting, it's like, it's all very niche. Like what you're doing is probably not the same, like you're probably not going after the same jobs as the person that's helping you. And so everybody kind of just finds their lane and stays in it. And then you don't feel like you're threatened by other people. So it's all love. Yeah.
So that's a long time we've been here.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
I just take these off. I'm just done.
All right. Well, we're done.